So I want to talk about validated learning. I said people were wasting people's time on an industrial scale, and here's why. We are busy doing what I call achieving failure, which is when we build a really excellent business plan and we successfully execute it to the letter, and then it turns out that it wasn't a very good plan in the first place and nobody wants the thing, and then we go right off a cliff. So I liken it to you're driving your car off a cliff and you're like, but we're getting great gas mileage, right as you go over the side. And yet, if we're building something that nobody wants, why are we so proud of having done it on time and on budget? When I go to startup board meetings, when I work with new product teams who are being asked to give reports in big companies, they're always reporting on how like we're doing just what we said we're going to do. Everything's on plan, on budget. It's got high quality. That where the test plan is being executed successfully, and yet relatively little conversation is being had about does anybody actually want this thing at the end? And the reason most of the startups I've worked at have failed is because we successfully executed a bad plan. We're actually really, really good at that. So what's the alternative? If we can't judge our progress according to product milestones and business milestones, because remember, forecasting is just not possible when you face high uncertainty, we want to create a different kind of milestone. We call it validated learning. Our whole purpose as a startup is to discover if we are on the path to a sustainable business, and if not, make a change. And graphically, it looks like this. Since we're all in the software business, we can speak candidly, but it would be true in other businesses too. A software company is a catalyst that transforms ideas into code. Everything else is a side effect. All the meetings and documentation and pizza and Mountain Dew, that's all interesting side effects that are necessary to transform ideas into code. And when customers interact with our products, that necessarily generates data, qualitative and quantitative, that we can choose to measure if we want. And then from that, we can learn which influences our next set of ideas. So a very simple three-stage feedback loop, but still very powerful concept because it allows us to reconcile the seemingly contradictory advice we're constantly being given as entrepreneurs. So if we spend, as I did in one company I built, spent 6 months building a product that I thought was really awesome. But the problem was it was like such an expansive product that in 6 months we had to cut some corners. The engineers in the room, no time, quality, money, pick two. Yeah, so we didn't have any time or any money. So that's just engineering speak for this product was terrible. And I mean, I'm not kidding. If the product would be more likely to crash your computer than it would be to give you any kind of delightful experience, if I'm being totally honest. And when we were about to launch this product, I was super nervous because I was like, what if people find out? And I had this image in my mind. Journalist gets this product on launch day, and they write this article. This is my last company called InView, and so the headline would always say, "Idiots at IMVU don't know what quality means." There's my picture. Never hire these guys again is the subtitle. And we're like, okay, well, we got to get it out there, see what happens. And I kid you not, at first I was completely relieved when no one would even try the product. And so then at least nobody found out how bad it was. And I was like, whoa, dodged a bullet. And I was like, wait a minute. I just spent 6 months of my life killing myself to build this product, and yet nobody wants it. And to make a long story short, we wound up having to pivot the business to a different strategy, and all the code that I had written during those 6 months basically got thrown away. I was depressed. Okay, can you just sympathize with me for a second? I was the CTO. Thank you, right? I personally, with my bare hands, wrote thousands and thousands of lines of extremely elegant, well-factored, well-documented, well-tested code, okay? And it all got thrown away, and I'd done it all agile, all lean, which is all supposed to drive out the waste from my development process, right? And yet here I am committing the biggest waste of all, which is building something that nobody wants. And so I was really disturbed because I said, wait a minute, why did I even have to be here? Couldn't my co-founder, if all my work got thrown away, couldn't I have been on vacation on a beach somewhere during this time? Why did I have to be here? And I was like, okay, we all know exactly what I did to make myself feel better. You've all done this at some point in your life. When you're running out of excuses, when you've really failed, there's always scraping the bottom of the barrel looking for an excuse. The last one you can reach out, you can always be like, well, if I hadn't done this thing, if we hadn't shipped this product, customers hadn't rejected it, we would not have learned this important thing, right? And therefore the learning justifies the failure. And you all know a manager who's bragging how much they learned in other companies anyway is about to get fired. Because it means they didn't make a very good plan, or they did make a good plan and didn't execute it, which is like you should be double fired for that one. And yet that's our fate as entrepreneurs. We're constantly having to learn. And so the thing that really bothered me was, if learning was my goal these 6 months, how come I'm only talking about it now at the end as an excuse? How come my co-founders and I weren't ever talking about learning during the 6 months, right? What did we talk about? What features do we absolutely have to have in version 1? Which bugs do we absolutely have to fix? What should be in the test plan? Which customers do we want to target? And of course, what kind of car are we going to drive when we're all super successful? Like all conversations, none of which contribute anything to our idea of learning. And so I started to work backwards and say, wait a minute, this is a product, you read the book for more details, that we did instant messaging interoperability, and we supported a dozen different networks out of the gate. And I asked myself, would the learning have been the same if we'd supported only 6 networks, or only 3, or only 1? Namely, that customers won't even try the product? Yeah, same learning. I was like, geez, from an engineering point of view, that's already a 10x reduction in the amount of code I would have had to write from 12 networks to 1. That's pretty depressing. And then I had this thought. I said, wait, what if we just created a single web page with a screenshot of the product we proposed to build and a gigantic download button? Would we even have had to create page 2, where we apologize that there's no product to download? No. Why? Because of what did I say before? I said they wouldn't try they literally wouldn't click the download button, so it really didn't matter what was on page 2. And that was really disturbing. How is it possible that, a one-day landing page experiment could have the same value as my 6 months of beautiful code, right? What did it say on my business card? Eric Ries, Chief Technology Officer, not Chief One-Page Landing Page Officer, right? How depressing was that? And yet I think if we think about startups as experiments, the way we get really breakthrough efficiency savings is not by building faster or measuring faster. It's by working backwards from what are we trying to learn to what is the least amount of work we have to do to learn that thing.